Everyone thinks they know Porsche. They think you need a trust fund to own one, that every 911 will spin you into a tree, or that the Cayenne is just a fancy Volkswagen. Today, we're busting the 10 biggest Porsche myths with actual data, engineering facts, and real-world testing. Alright, let's kick this off with myth number 10. Manual gearboxes are always faster and more fun than PDK. Oh boy, this one gets people fired up at every Cars and Coffee I've been to. Here's the thing though, numbers don't lie. When Motor Trend threw the GT3 around their test track, the PDK version blasted to 60 miles per hour in 3.1 seconds. The manual, it needed 3.5 seconds. Car and Driver saw it even worse with the GT3 Touring. 2.8 seconds for the PDK versus 3.3 for the 3-pedal car. Makes sense when you think about it. PDK can bang through gears in milliseconds, while you're still moving your hands to the shifter. But wait, here's where it gets weird. Even though PDK is obviously faster, 70% of GT4 buyers still pick the manual. 70%! Now, why? Because sometimes being fast isn't the point. There's something about working that clutch, nailing a perfect heel-toe downshift into a hairpin, feeling the mechanical click as you slot into third gear. PDK might dominate lap times, but manuals, they just hit different. Fun fact, that PDK tech came straight from Porsche's Le Mans race cars, where shaving off a tenth of a second could mean winning or losing. These gearboxes can handle 738 pound-feet of torque and survive 200 track days. 200! Your clutch leg would give out way before the transmission does. So really, pick what makes you happy. Want to chase lap records? PDK all day. Want to feel like a driving god? Get the stick. Sliding into myth number 9, the electric Taycan proves Porsche has lost its soul. Man, people lost their minds when Porsche said they were making an electric car. But have you seen what this thing actually does? The 2025 Turbo GT hits 60 miles per hour in 1.9 seconds. 1.9! That's not just fast, that's physics-bending fast. And get this, it ran the Nürburgring in 7 minutes and 7.55 seconds. That's quicker than a 992 GT3 RS. Let that sink in for a second. How the heck did they manage that? Well, they stuck the battery pack super low. Lower than where a 911's engine sits. The Taycan's center of gravity is 1.6 inches below a Carrera S. When you're whipping through corners, that low weight just plants the car like nothing else. The steering, the way it dives into corners, how the brakes feel, it's all pure Porsche. Car and Driver didn't name it EV of the Year because it's a good electric car. They picked it because it's a great sports car that happens to be electric. And before you start talking about range anxiety, the new ones go over 318 miles per charge. Need to top up? Those 350 kilowatt chargers pump in 190 miles worth of juice in 18 minutes. Yeah, you don't get that flat 6 soundtrack, but literally everything else about how it drives screams Stuttgart. Different power source, same addiction. Myth number 8 really grinds my gears. SUVs like the Cayenne and Macan aren't real Porsches. Look, I get it. Seeing a Porsche badge on something with 4 doors and a hatch feels weird. But here's a reality check. Back in 2002, Porsche was in trouble. Big trouble. They were only moving 23,000 cars a year. The Cayenne didn't just help. It literally saved the whole company. Fast forward to 2024, and Cayenne plus Macan sales make up to 55% of everything Porsche sells. Without these SUVs, we probably wouldn't have any new 911s to argue about. But okay, are they just Audis in disguise? Come on. The Cayenne Turbo GT sits 0.67 inches lower than an Audi RS Q8. It uses totally different suspension parts. And here's the kicker, it lapped the ring in 7 minutes 38 seconds. That's faster than a 2006 997 GT3. Autocar's test drivers specifically called out how the steering feels just like a 911's. That's not an accident. That's obsessive engineering. Here's another stat that'll blow your mind. Over 70% of people who buy a Cayenne come back and buy another Porsche later. These SUVs aren't watering down the brand. They're creating new enthusiasts. Oh, and they race them too. Cayennes dominated the Trans-Siberia Rally, and they're building electric Macans for rally raids. Tell me that's not legitimate. Myth number 7 is the one that starts fights at Porsche meetups. Air-cooled 911s are inherently better than water-cooled ones. This is like the ultimate Porsche holy war. Here's what actually went down. By the mid-90s, air cooling was done, cooked. Emissions rules and noise limits meant that beautiful air-cooled flat 6 had nowhere left to go. August Eichleitner, the guy who basically raised the 911 through its teenage years, straight up called water cooling their only path forward. And wow, did it pay off. That first water-cooled 996 Carrera pumped out 300 horsepower while actually meeting emission standards. That's the same power as the legendary 930 Turbo. Water cooling gave us 9,000 RPM GT3 screamers, direct injection, and now we've got hybrid systems making over 500 horsepower. None of that happens if Porsche stays air-cooled. Even Porsche knows both eras matter. Walk through their museum and you'll see the 993 labeled as the air-cooled pinnacle sitting right next to the 996 as the tech pioneer. They're not picking sides, they're showing evolution. Go to any Luftgekult meeting these days and you'll see Singer reimagined air-cooled beauties parked next to track-focused water-cooled GT3s. The community's finally realizing it's not about which is better, it's about appreciating what each generation brought to the table. Myth number 6 drives me nuts. Porsches aren't reliable enough for daily driving. Seriously? Tell that to Tom Thalman, who's put over 700,000 miles on his 2001 911 Turbo. 700,000 on the original engine, and he's not babying it either. This dude commutes through Boston winters, rode and track daily, drove a 992 Turbo, and said it was no harder to live with than any regular luxury sedan. The numbers back this up big time. J.D. Power puts Porsche third for dependability among fancy brands. Consumer Reports says the 2025 911, Macan, and Cayenne should be average or better for reliability. Annual maintenance runs about $1,200. That's basically what you'd spend keeping a BMW 3 Series happy. Throw on some winter tires, maybe get the factory undercoating, and these things eat up miles like any other German sedan. The secret? Just maintain the dang thing. Change the oil when you're supposed to. Use good parts. Don't ignore weird noises. Do that, and these cars will outlive your grandkids. They're literally designed to be driven hard, not hidden under car covers. Now for myth number 5, the one that tanked used Porsche prices for years. All modern Porsches will suffer catastrophic IMS bearing failure. Okay, deep breath everyone. Yes, IMS bearing failure is real. No, your engine probably won't explode. Porsche Club of America tracked actual failures and found dual-row bearings failed at about 1%. The later single-row ones, about 8%. Even if you believe the most paranoid data out there, we're talking 3 to 4% combined failure rate. Is that ideal? Nope. But here's the thing, you can fix it forever for like $2 to $3 grand. Boom, problem solved. And every engine built from 2009 onward uses a different bearing design that literally cannot fail this way. Renlist did a huge investigation in 2019 and basically said everyone needs to chill out about IMS if they're buying a maintained car. You know what actually kills these engines today? Bore scoring from running them cold all the time. Coolant pipes that nobody ever checks until they blow. But IMS gets all the headlines. The paranoia actually created an awesome situation for smart buyers though. Super clean 996s and early 997s got stupid cheap because everyone was scared. If you did your homework, you could score an incredible deal on a future classic. Myth number 4 makes me laugh. A Porsche is just a fancy Volkswagen. Yeah, okay. Technically, Porsche AG is part of the VW group. And yeah, Porsche SE owns a bunch of VW voting rights. But saying that makes a 911 related to a Golf is like saying a wolf is basically a Chihuahua because they're both canines. The 992 uses a freaking magnesium roof, hollow anti-roll bars, an inverted wishbone front suspension that is literally nothing in common with any VW product. People love to hate on the Cayenne for sharing the MLB Evo platform with some Audis. But when you actually look at the parts breakdown, the Cayenne and Touareg share less than 30% of components at launch. And most of that was boring stuff like air vents and wiring harnesses. The 2025 Cayenne Turbo GT destroys the ring 20 seconds faster than Audi's fastest SUV. 20 seconds! On the same basic architecture. That shows you what Porsche engineering really means. Look, sharing some basics makes total sense. It keeps prices from going completely insane and lets engineers obsess over the stuff that matters. But if you think platform sharing makes these cars the same, go drive them back to back. I dare you. Coming in hot at myth number 3, every Porsche looks the same. I mean, I kinda get this one. Show a normal person 3 different 911 generations, and they'll probably think you're playing a prank. Car Throttle had that joke about designers just hitting copy-paste and scaling up 2% each year. But man, that take misses so much. In 60 years, the 911's roofline dropped 0.8 inches. The track got 9.5 inches wider. Drag coefficient went from 0.39 to 0.27. The new 992 has Trick Active Aero hiding in that rear deck, matrix LED headlights that can literally draw around other cars, and exotic steel alloys that would blow 1960s minds. All that tech lives under a shape that, yeah, looks familiar. That's not lazy, that's genius-level design discipline. And it totally works. Park a 15-year-old 997 next to its contemporaries, and guess which one still looks fresh. When Porsche built their millionth 911 in 2017, they painted it the same Irish green as the very first prototype. That's not playing it safe, that's honoring an icon while pushing it forward. Some see boring repetition. I see the most recognizable sports car silhouette ever created. Myth number 2, the scary one. The rear-engine 911 is a widowmaker with uncontrollable snap oversteer. This reputation exists for a reason. Those early short wheelbase 911s from the 60s were genuinely sketchy, with 63% of the weight hanging behind the rear axle. Lifting off the throttle mid-corner was basically hitting the spin cycle button. Magazine covers loved showing 911s going backwards through hedges. But Porsche engineers aren't stupid. By 1969, they stretched the wheelbase 2.2 inches to settle things down. Then came wider rear tracks, fat staggered tires, and this thing called the Visaw axle that basically killed lift-off oversteer. Starting in 1999, Porsche stability management could grab individual brakes within 50 milliseconds. That's faster than you can blink. Today's 992 Carrera GTS T Hybrid makes 541 horsepower, but comes wrapped in 315 section rear rubber and has an electronic diff that can shuffle 1,475 pound-feet around. The computers are literally adding corrective forces before your brain even processes what's happening. Motor Trend tested every generation and found modern 911s stay neutral way past sane speeds, then ease into gentle understeer. No more backwards hedge adventures. The Widowmaker thing, that's ancient history. Finally, the big one. Myth number 1, you need to be rich to own a Porsche. Yeah, if you want a new 911 ST, better have 400 grand lying around. And sure, those auction house headlines about million-dollar Singer builds don't help. But come on, let's talk about the real world. First-gen Boxsters under 10 grand all day long. Same with nice 944s. Road and Track literally puts them on their cheap thrills list every single year. Even proper 996 generation 911s start around 20 grand. That's used Camry money. Running costs aren't the nightmare everyone claims either. RepairPal crunched millions of repair bills and found Porsche's average $1,192 annually for maintenance. That's only like $80 more than the typical luxury car and way less than keeping a BMW or Range Rover happy. J.D. Power ranks Porsche third among premium brands for not breaking. Third. But here's the real kicker. After 5 years, 911s still hold 60% of their original price. 64%. Try getting that from literally any other car. Plus, the aftermarket is huge. Forums are packed with DIY guides, and every possible problem has been solved by someone somewhere. Add it all up, and suddenly, Porsche ownership looks way more realistic than the country club stereotype suggests. These myths stick around because they're easier than research, but when you dig into service bulletins, lap times, reliability studies, and real owner experiences, the truth emerges. Modern Porsches won't kill you. They're reliable enough for daily use, and you don't need offshore accounts to buy one. So whether you dream of an air-cooled classic or the latest hybrid rocket ship, don't let myths stop you. The legend is impressive enough without the lies.